Bowl 37, the greatest stage on earth, and the stars were rolling. It's the Bucs' top defense against the Raiders' top offense. John Gruden taking on his old team, and his new team came out ice hot. Could the Bucs kick the Raiders while they're down? Or would the black and silver and black make a late comeback? We got it all. We got it next on NFL Primetime.
Primetime, presented by Miller Lite. Primetime is Miller time. And now, here's your host, Stuart Scott.
First two times the Super Bowl was in San Diego, QBs ruled the day, Doug Williams and John Elway. On this day, it was all about that D. Hi again, thanks for hanging with us on NFL Primetime. The franchise that started 0-26 is now world champion. Stuart Scott, Tom Jackson, Steve Young. Does this prove once and for all, Tom, that defense wins championships?
If you have a great defense, they will come out, they will suffocate any offense that they go against. That's what happened to the Raiders today.
Wait a second. Wistfully, for years, we've been saying, what if they had an offense? What would happen? Rhetorically, we asked 3 weeks ago, what if they score 48,
That's right.
31,
That's right.
and 27? What will happen? They'll win championships. This offense came to play, and I tell you what, John Gruden put a masterful game plan together. Solid, yet he was explosive.
Look at the last 3 Super Bowl champions. I see the Ravens. I see a flawless defensive game plan by the New England Patriots, and I see today's Buccaneers.
And I see a former Buccaneer quarterback grinning. We'll get to the highlights quickly, but first, the drama before the game. Oakland Pro Bowl center Barrett Robbins suspended before the game for missing a series of team functions. Now, we have confirmed that Barrett is in a local hospital, and Sal Palantona reports that he is expected to remain there for a few days. We'll have more on this story later on in the show. The Raiders were hoping it would not be a distraction. They were hoping it wouldn't be a distraction. John Gruden ready to face his former team. Jerry Rice looking for his 4th ring. Warren Sapp has looked forward to this his entire career. Rich Gannon playing without his starting center. Third play out of the game, Brad Johnson gets pressured and play headed on by Charles Woodson. 3 playoff games this year. 3 times that Johnson has had a first quarter pick. Ensuing drive, Simeon Rice 15.5 sacks during the regular season. TJ, he was bringing that wood.
We talked about the matchup between Simeon Rice and Barry Sims as the left tackle of the Raiders. You just look at the move right there. Great inside move, great usage of the hands by Simeon Rice. Gannon knew early on he had to worry about the backside protection.
Steve, what's going on here?
Brad Johnson got started slowly, but then got heated up with Joe Jurevicius down the sidelines. I think that he needed to get a ceiling stick. Thanks for the running game to get him started.
1st and 10, Michael Pittman breaking off a little something proper. 21-yard run by Pittman. He had 72 yards rushing in the first half. Bucs kick a field goal. They tied it at 3. Still tied at 3. Rich Gannon sacked by Greg Spires. TJ. Gannon, was he confused or what?
Well, I said he had to worry about his backside, too. He had to worry about his front side as well. And look at the power rush by Greg Spires. Got Lincoln Kenning leading and knocked him right over.
Lake first tied at 3. My bad. Gannon picked by Dexter Jackson. Jackson's wife is 8.5 months pregnant. She is in San Diego, but she did not go to the game. Steve, what's going on?
I mean, I tell you what, speed, and speed kills. These are, you know, you talk about the big Oakland offensive line. I thought that was a benefit to them. It actually hurt them today with the speed.
And then Martin Gramatica, 43-yard field goal. Bucs up 6-3, typical Bucs football. Well, we thought it was. More Bucs defense. Gannon, pressure. Sacked by Rice again. Rice, 5 tackles, 2 sacks in the first half. They're all over him. Next Bucs possession. Pittman, the former Arizona Cardinal, dances his way all the way to the 2-yard line. And 2nd and goal. Chris Berman's not here, but in honor of Boom, 2nd and goal. Mike Allstott coming. I think he's calling That's what Gruden's saying.
He's saying green right.
Mike Allstott, 5 rushing touchdowns in the regular season, 13-3, TJ.
Yeah, and once the timing of this offense was thrown off, now you see players dropping footballs here, 3rd down and 6. Timmy Brown actually gets a very catchable ball, but he's distracted by the defense. Now, the timing of that rhythm offense, that West Coast offense, has been completely thrown off.
And this is where I think that Tampa Bay takes control, and Michael Pittman, my MVP of the game, because he's the one that helped Brad Johnson get on track. The quick pass to Mike Allstott in the flat. They called the wall. He played a bunch of times under pressure today. And then again, Keyshawn Johnson for the nice slant pass a few times early in the game. And then to Allstott, another Wally. I mean, they called that play, I bet they called it 10 times today. And then the pay dirt there is a little fade stop. Nice little route to McKeenan McCardell. I think, that's what got Brad Johnson going finally, and I really thought that was important.
That made it 20-3 Bucks. Second half, 3rd and 2 Raiders. Gannon's pass broken up by Brian Kelly. And Jerry Rice has yet to catch a pass at this point in the game. 3rd and 2. And check out what happened. Michael Vick comes into play. Okay, it ain't Michael. Brad Johnson, only 13 carries all year. His longest was 6. That went for 10. And here, Johnson to Keyshawn, 1st down. Johnson to Juravicious, getting righteous, 34 yards. This is why he completed 62.3% of his passes in the regular season. 2nd 9, Johnson to Ken Dilger, and Dilger accidentally is going to kick Charles Woodson right in the head.
You sure that was accidentally?
Well, it's true. I mean, maybe some Raider payback. 1st and goal after an offensive penalty. Holla to Keenan McCardell. Now remember, the Bucs not known for long drives. They had a 77 and an 89-yard drive in this game. Next Raider drive, Gannon picked off by Dwight Smith. Play a please. The Bucs led the NFL with 31 picks this year, TJ. 10 different guys, everybody cashing in.
That's a great replay of Dwight Smith. Just watch his head, watch his eyes. You see him looking back at the quarterback, makes a great break on the football, actually has 8 yards to do it, and you see John Gruden celebrating on the sideline.
Rich Gannon was slow all day, too, on the reads.
Finally, a little bit of something for the Raiders. Gannon moving around to Doug Jolly, who's the 2nd best player in BYU history. The best is sitting next to me right here. 3rd and 4, Gannon, though, incomplete to Jerry Porter, but pass interference call. Drive stays alive. 3rd and 3, can a brother get some Jerry Porter? He led the Raiders with 9 touchdown catches in the regular season. Get it deep to Porter. But does he have it? It is initially ruled out of the end zone, incomplete. Steve, right call?
You can see that he drags his feet beautifully. Jerry Rice taught him that. He comes to the Raiders, and all of a sudden everybody's dragging 2 in bounds.
They reversed the call. Touchdown, Raiders. 2-point conversion failed, 34-9 Bucks. Bucks forced to punt. Tom Tupa hadn't had a punt blocked all season. Eric Johnson picks it up. Touchdown, 34-15 Bucks. TJ, maybe? Just maybe for the Raiders?
Well, Tommy Tupa allows his punt to be blocked, but he kicks the ball out 10 feet in front of him. You got to help your line. I thought the job they did protecting was actually pretty good, but it ends up in a touchdown for the Raiders.
2-point conversion. Gannon over the middle. Incomplete. Another 2-point conversion. Not good. After a botched Buck field goal, Gannon. See, this is what Steve Young did with Jerry Rice.
I'll tell you, this is one of the staples of the West Coast. A little out move about 15 yards deep, then cut it up the middle. Actually, very similar to the first catch he made against the San Diego Chargers at Super Bowl 29.
That post route, Jerry's 8th touchdown in 4 career Super Bowl games. The lead is cut to 34-21. 2-point conversion to Porter. Has it. Pushed out of bounds. Now it's ruled incomplete. Didn't count. 2 minutes to go. 2nd and 9. Warren Sapp. He gets to Gannon. Everybody getting to Gannon. Next play. I ain't gonna say that, but this ain't right. Derek Brooks, NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He had 4 touchdowns in the regular season. Tommy, you called it. You knew that was going to happen.
Derek Brooks may be the best ever at this. You just watch him as he gets back in the middle of the field. He's reading the quarterback's eyes. He has a great set of hands, and he knows how to get to the sideline and make a beeline for the end zone. Got that nice loping stride, running a lot faster than it appears.
Celebration was on, but hold up. Gannon, player hated on again by Dwight Smith. Dwight Smith, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns. Rich Gannon threw 10 interceptions in the regular season. He threw 5 in this game. Ball game. Gruden gets the Gatorade shower. Gruden beats his old team. Tim Brown, 15-year veteran, will have to wait for the ring. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. Did you ever think you'd hear that, Steve?
Sounds good. I tell you what, John Gruden did it all today because he gave him the Monty Kiffin. He didn't, not out of ego, gave him the chance to go out and play defense, gave him the challenge, and then offensively brought a lot to the table this season.
Bucks win 48-21. Yeah, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Not only is it a surprise that they win the Super Bowl, but the Bucks score 48 points and hold the lead.
You have grandchildren?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and they've never seen you coach, obviously. They never, no. But I think
that was, and it's with my granddaughter. We were out, we were traveling, and in the airport, somebody come up and start talking. She finally, 7 years old, she said, "Why does everybody know my grandpa?"
In Pittsburgh, he was known as the emperor of the Steeler dynasty of the 1970s. But it's easy to excuse a 7-year-old's innocence, since even when his teams were at the top of the mountain, Chuck Noll never became a household name to the world at large. What's more of a mystery is how the only coach to win 4 Super Bowls is even overlooked when people talk about the greatest coaches of all time, many of whom turn up early in his story.
At right guard from Dayton, weighing 210, Chuck Noll.
Now, when you played under Paul Brown, did you think at the time that you would be a coach someday?
No, I hadn't given it much thought. I was going to law school at the time, and I thought maybe that was the way I'd go. But when it came time to retire, I felt that, the thing I knew most was football. And in 1960, I called Sid Gilman, and fortunately, he hired me without any coaching experience whatsoever. And that was the start of it.
Well, the season is over for the players, but just beginning for the coaches and the staff. Coaches Walt Hackett, Chuck Noll plan the defense for the coming season.
Noll spent 6 seasons with the Chargers. Then, in 1966, headed to Baltimore, where he became Don Shula's defensive coordinator. After working out a few kinks, Noll crafted one of the best units in the game, right up to when Broadway Joe stole the show in Super Bowl III. The day after that game, Noll moved on again, this time to the ranks of head coach.
I had chances to go to New England and to Buffalo at that time, but after talking with Dan, I knew that they wanted to do what was right.
Dan was Dan Rooney, who had just taken over the management reins in Pittsburgh from Art Rooney, his father and the Steelers' founder. The goal was to jumpstart a franchise that had been stuck in self-destruct mode for most of its existence. And the first step was hiring a no-nonsense coach.
The first meeting with Chuck Noll, we had a lot of cynical, old, veteran players who'd seen a lot of coaches come and go, and there was, sort of this attitude, well, show me your stuff, coach. And he gave a speech which he essentially was saying to us, look, the reason you've been losing has nothing to do with your attitude. The reason you've been losing is you're not good enough. You can't run fast enough, you can't jump high enough, you're not quick enough, you're not skilled enough. And it was like, wow, this guy. And then he said, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of most of you. And I'm going to bring in the guys who can play these defenses and play these. They're going to be harder. I'm going to make you do the hard stuff.
Noll had the rare opportunity to basically rebuild a team from scratch, and he chose not to cash in his draft picks for established players.
Everybody wanted to give us all these guys, and I got this kind of early. People wanted to give you their problems, and come in and get good players. So, it kind of dawned on me that that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to bring people in, get them in our system, and not get somebody else's problems.
Over the next 6 years, a few of the picks were college stars, but most of them were unknown players from schools most people had never heard of.
Steelers' first-round selection, Joe Green.
Yet while fans may have been puzzled, Noll knew exactly what he was looking for.
With Joe, I was with the Colts at the time and went down to North Texas. I had the Texas territory scouting in the spring, and I watched him and talked to him a little bit, and there was no doubt in my mind that this guy, he loved to play football and wanted to play very badly, and to me, those are two things that you really have to have. We used to write away for transcripts. because we wanted to see whether the player was in there with basket weaving or whether he wanted to challenge himself, because that spoke a lot about the individual. So we ended up getting a lot of guys that were not only good football players, but wanted to be challenged. Those are champions to me.
To me, a sign of how good Noel was is that he took a lot of down-the-line draft choices and made Hall of Famers out of them.
Take the 1974 class, for example, which sent not only first-round pick Lynn Swann, fourth-rounder John Stallworth, who was inducted in 2002. It's clear Noel had an eye for talent, but his greatest talent may have been the ability to motivate these players without saying a word.
A lot of people think motivation comes from the mouth, you know, and it doesn't. Motivation comes from helping somebody get the job done. It's not saying, come on, you got to do it. You know, that doesn't make it. But we always were big on the how-to.
Noel always stressed the use of proper technique, and if you didn't live up to his expectations, you were either benched or gone. That was how he forged the cohesive unit from characters as diverse as Fats Holmes and Vietnam vet Rocky Blyer. How he got a man named Mean Joe and a firecracker like Lambert to work with a cerebral player like Andy Russell. You can also understand why he might have had a few problems with a crazy-leg quarterback who early in his career fought Noel's system with his tendency to improvise.
My relationship with Chuck Noll went from hate to love to confusion. Early in my career, I couldn't stand him. I'll never forget the Houston game my rookie year. I walked in 2 minutes late for a pregame meal. Stood me up, Mr. Bradshaw here. It was late, and blah, blah, blah. We're going to find him and just mean and embarrass me again. Grabbed me on the sideline, jerked me up and down, and put me in a game, pulled me out, cussed me out on the sideline. And I just couldn't understand this garbage.
How would you describe your relationship with Terry?
Business-like. You know, it was all business. He had great talent. It was something that, you know, I think you see a lot of Terry on TV right now. He's fun-loving, you know, kind of devil-may-care. And we couldn't have that in our quarterback. It had to be, you know, we got to get this done, and this is how we're going to do it. And I think it worked. You know, he may not have liked it, but it worked.
It's no coincidence that when quarterback and coach finally started seeing eye to eye, the Steelers started winning Super Bowls. There were 4 in 6 years, a feat that's gone unmatched since and is unlikely to be matched anytime soon. I'll be back with the Steelers Emperor after these messages.
I was talking to Paul Zimmerman before I came down here, and he said, well, who are you going to do? I said, well, we're going to do a special on Chuck Noll. So Dr. Z sort of laughs at me and says, well, good luck. He says, good luck. I said, it's the worst interview there is. And this is what he said.
I think Chuck Noll made writers nervous, because even when he was giving you good information and being sincere, you always got the feeling that there was the curled lip in there, that there was the hint of a sneer.
I think he started off life wanting to associate with people from whom he could learn something. And if he didn't feel that he could learn anything from you, he felt he was wasting your time and would blow you off.
That's interesting, that perspective, because Paul, most of the time, we just want to talk about wine, being a wine writer.
Merlots aside, Noel was infamous for being tight-lipped with the media.
There'd be something so bad.
I won't even answer that question.
An approach that stemmed from an incident in 1969.
Well, one of the things after a game, everybody wanted to know whose fault it was. And my first year with the Steelers, Mel Blount was beaten for a touchdown, and I said, you know, it was Mel, the man. And the next game, we were introducing the defense, and when they introduced Mel, the fans just booed like you wouldn't believe, you know, and just crushed Mel, his spirit. So after that, you know, I tried not to point out if there was a breakdown, it was more than one guy.
Let's just say he wasn't a walking soundbite, or the type of coach who lends his name to gas grills or a brand of snow tires.
Chuck did not perform commercials as Shula did all the time, national commercials on television. Chuck said the commercials are for the players. Let them make the money. He simply was not interested in promoting himself. As a consequence, you only sometimes hear of him mentioned with the great coaches.
Here you are, the only man in history to win 4 Super Bowls. Are you ever going to write a book?
No.
Why not?
Because, you know, that's, you know, coaching is a very personal thing. It's not something you want to broadcast.
And boy, did we find that out the hard way. I was shocked when I got to know him a little better. I learned that he's actually an accomplished pilot, seaman, and gourmet chef. He's a classic Renaissance man, an expert on just about everything.
One time, Craig Colquitt, Terry Bradshaw, and myself were strumming guitars in the dorm room. Chuck Noll walks by, sees that we're kind of playing and singing, walks in, takes the guitar from my hands, plays 2 or 3 songs, sings one, hands the guitar back, and walks out, but never said a word. It was like he just wanted to show that he could play the guitar too and wanted to join in a little bit, but didn't need to say, yeah, I can play the guitar.
Noll also never lost interest in his college major, physical science.
I think this was Rocky Blyer that told me. He says that one of the things that you always liked to do was to come up with new ideas. That every year that you'd have some sort of new way of getting in condition. And I said, well, was there ever one that didn't work? And he said, yeah. He said, one year that, he said, Chuck had studied some Olympic runners, that they were increasing their speed on
downhill running. Right.
Yeah. And it didn't.
It didn't work. The whole idea was the way you increase speed was stride length or frequency. As it turned out, we had more injuries from that. You know, it didn't work out.
We often joked about Chuck and his desire to teach and his desire to coach, and he would do that on any given occasion. And we did not want to be caught in a shower with Chuck at the end of a football game because there was a tendency for him to start coaching you right there in the shower. And so we all hurried to get out of the shower before Chuck got there. And there were some visions of being caught in a bathroom stall with Chuck next door. We thought he might even coach you then.
But the most unusual thing about Noll may have been his attitude towards Super Bowls, lifting curfews and cutting his players loose on the town, because he believed the reason the Colts lost Super Bowl III was that they were too uptight about being on the world stage.
It was something that I tried to go into every Super Bowl with, this is a reward. Let's have a good time. Don't fight the media types. Have a good time with them. You know, Rocky Blyer, for example, took a camera. He had a camera, and he was filming the media. And Ray Mansfield, guys finished, and he says, wait, I'm not finished yet. Come on back. You know, it was this kind of thing, and I think that really helped.
And while Chuck may never map out his theories in a book, he did offer me 3 words that would have made a great title for his autobiography.
We say whatever it takes. A lot of people have different meanings for that, but what it meant to us was, as members of a team, you have to do whatever you can do to help the team win. Now, if someone else is not functioning very well, he may be sick. Well, somebody else has to step up. You know, whatever it takes means team. And I think our guys bought into that.
The motto is probably best illustrated in the Steelers' most famous play.
4th down and 10 yards to go. And Bradshaw back and looking again. Bradshaw running out of the pocket.
You know, the thing that made that thing work, Franco was very special from the standpoint that he never took a play off. I mean, he finished the play. His assignment on that particular play was to block the outside linebacker. So he goes over to block the outside linebacker. He's not coming, so he sees the scramble. So he starts out to try to become a receiver. So he's in the area there where the ball comes. And all of this comes from doing more than you're expected to do. You know, you have something that you're asked to do, then if you can do more, that is really going to help. That's whatever it takes.
So in a way, the Immaculate Reception epitomizes your philosophy of coaching when it looks like you look and say, well, this is just happenstance and luck, but the way you explained it, it really is, in a way, a confirmation of all the things you believe in as a head coach.
Yeah, well, you know, there's the old saying about preparation makes you lucky, you know.
Preparation also made them very good, thanks to the man Joe Green once called the only indispensable Steeler, who also may have been their most unique personality.
One thing I learned very early is you have to be yourself. You can't imitate somebody else. You have to do the things the way you have strong feelings. If you imitate somebody else, you're going to be a poor imitation, and it's not going to work.
And Noel was always himself, even when he had to face the media for the last time.
The only thing that I can say is thank you. I mean, this is to everybody, to the city of Pittsburgh, to the coaches that I've been associated with through the years, to the players, especially the players, because those are the guys that make it happen on the field. You know, it's been great memories, and after 39 years in it, I have to step back and see what the flowers smell like for a little bit.
It was a dignified, tearless departure, fitting for an intellectual who believed that at its core, football isn't such a complicated game.
Coach Noel would always say, if they're trying to fool you, that means they can't beat you with their best stuff. They're desperate. Just line up and say, come on. That's Chuck Noel.
Those basic, fundamental things that you grew up with, that every coach had drilled into your head, but it all came to a light.
And somewhere in that light lies Noel's legacy. A coach who was handed a team stuck in the cellar of pro football, took them to the top, and kept them there.
So what would you tell your grandchildren if your grandchildren say, Grandpa, what was it like to coach that team?
It was fun. It really was fun.
It's kind of what you'd expect from a guy who one day simply decided